No matter what religion you follow, or even if religion is not part of your life, you have surely heard of the Bible. What few know is that beyond faith, this ancient book contains timeless principles about leadership, management, and personal growth. Lessons that, if applied today, could transform the way many people understand business and success. The biblical text, seen through the lens of strategy, is a manual of practical wisdom forged through millennia of human experience. Throughout his life, Jesus was followed by 12 disciples and crowds of people who listened attentively to his teachings. He did not speak with complicated language or cold speeches. He used simple stories, called parables, to convey deep truths about life, effort, and reward. Among all his teachings, there is one story that stands out for its power and relevance: the parable of the talents, one of the most valuable lessons about productivity, investment, and personal responsibility. The parable of the talents. Imagine for a moment a wealthy man who must travel far away. In business terms, this man is the main shareholder or CEO. Before leaving, he calls 3 of his servants, the investment managers, and entrusts them with part of his fortune. To one he gives 5 gold coins, to another 3, and to the last a single coin, according to each one's ability. The man leaves. The first, determined and skillful, invests the 5 coins, works hard, and manages to double his money. This is the archetype of the proactive entrepreneur who assesses risks and takes immediate action. The second also takes a risk and multiplies his 3 coins, showing that the size of the capital does not define profitability. Diligence does. But the third feels fear. Fear is the worst enemy of investment. He fears losing the little he has, so he digs a hole in the ground and buries his coin. His motivation is not stupidity, but paralysis from panic. Upon returning, the master calls the 3 and asks for an account. The first and second are rewarded not only for the result, but also for their attitude and faithfulness to purpose. The reward is clear: promotion to greater responsibility. I will put you in charge of much. Finally, the last servant says, "Master, you gave me 1 coin. I know you are a hard man, so I was afraid and hid your money. Here it is, intact." The master looks at him with disappointment and replies, "Lazy servant. You knew I had to obtain fruit. You could have at least given my money to the bankers to receive interest. Take that coin away from him and give it to the one who has 10. For whoever has will be given more, and whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away." And so the parable ended with a lesson that transcends the centuries. The meaning behind the story. More than a religious metaphor, this parable is a universal lesson about the mindset of success and the ethics of capital. The central message is not that the rich will become richer, but that resources are meant for production. Capital, if unused, is dead capital. The critique of inaction, fear. The greatest condemnation is not for having invested poorly and lost, but for not having acted at all. The third servant was stripped of his talent, which at the time was a monetary unit of great value, because his fear led him to productive laziness. In business, the worst risk is not failing in a venture, but being paralyzed while the competition advances. The importance of compound interest. When the master reproaches him, "At least you could have given my money to the bankers to receive interest," he is making a clear reference to passive investment and compound interest. Even if you lack the skill or courage to actively undertake, you have the obligation to make your resource, your capital, your time, your skill, generate some minimum return. Fiduciary responsibility. The servants acted as stewards of someone else's property, a fiduciary responsibility. In business, every employee or partner is a fiduciary of the company's resources, time, money, brand. The parable demands that the fiduciary not only preserve capital, but also actively seek its growth. Those who live dominated by fear, clinging to the little they have, end up losing everything. They are the people who do not act, do not undertake, do not learn. They bury their talent waiting for the perfect moment, without understanding that the perfect moment never comes. It is created through action. In contrast, those who dare, who invest, who trust in their ability, are the ones who manage to move forward. Not because they are smarter or luckier, but because they dare to act when others freeze, assuming calculated risk as a necessary part of growth. The biblical text offers other examples of business strategy and leadership. Joseph and long-term planning. Joseph, in Genesis, manages Egypt's granary. His strategy is based on provision during years of abundance, the harvests, to overcome years of scarcity, the famines. This is a master lesson in crisis management, strategic planning, and reserve diversification, principles applied today in the reserve funds of states and companies. Solomon and wisdom in management. King Solomon is remembered for his wisdom. His proverbs are a compendium of principles on time, money, and interpersonal management. He who works with a negligent hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent enriches. It is a direct call to operational excellence and aversion to mediocrity. Nehemiah and project leadership. The reconstruction of Jerusalem's wall, led by Nehemiah, is a case study in project management. It shows the importance of clear vision, team motivation, task delegation, and constant vigilance against adversaries, competition. Every talent you possess, your knowledge, your time, your skills, is an investment. And the way you use it defines your destiny. The Bible does not speak only of faith, it speaks of responsibility, discipline, and purpose, of working with excellence, without fear, with the conviction that every action bears fruit. The message is clear: whoever dares to use their talent grows. Whoever buries it out of fear remains in the darkness of mediocrity. And perhaps that is why, centuries later, this teaching remains alive. Because beyond religion, it holds a universal truth about the value of effort and the winning mindset, reminding us that our potential is a resource we are obliged to multiply.